Welcome to Intellicide, the Loki series review episode. I'm Anthony Gentry, and my co-host is Kyle Palmenville. Welcome to the show.
So I'll let you go first. What did you think?
Overall, I did enjoy the series. As I mentioned earlier.
Oh, by the way, spoiler alert. There you go.
Yes. We are going to have spoilers. So if you haven't watched it, do not listen to this episode. Watch first, then come back and enjoy and comment.
Yes. And then remember to like and subscribe.
Yes, sir. So yeah, I did enjoy it. It went into this. Loki is not my favorite character. Didn't really care for him. Mm-hmm. But I will say I think the show did a good job, especially at the point where he thought Mobius was killed. Mm-hmm. It humanized Loki a little bit, and it made you care for him. So I did like that. I liked the introduction of what's his name, Jonathan Majors, the role that he played. I did like that. And just what this has in store for the MCU.
Yeah.
What did you think?
So I really liked the performances by Tom Hiddleston and I can't remember who played Sylvie, but the actress who played Sylvie. Uh-huh. I thought the whole thing was great in that it was all about one character, right? It was all about Loki.
Right.
And which is why it threw me at the end. I thought by the end of by episode 5, I was convinced that it was going to be another Loki variant in charge of it. Mm-hmm. I knew that they laid all those hints about Kang, but I didn't really think they were going to bring in a brand new character for the last episode, but they did.
Right.
What I had thought was really interesting was that it was an examination of Loki's potential in how mm-hmm. many of his decisions had been, he had been reacting. He was in hurt, or he many of the things that he did were lashing out. And the root of it is he really just wanted to be loved and accepted. And when the original Thor, he lashed out, it was because he had found out that he was adopted, and his father, he thought his father, Odin, hadn't loved him. He'd only used him as a political, tool, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Much of it was, him lashing out. Even in the Avengers, he was lashing out over his perceived loss of his family, with after Thor. He'd then been Marvel had actually said something about how he was also being manipulated by the Mind Stone, which mm-hmm. was increasing his, thoughts of, anger and fear.
You know who else I really enjoyed, man, and he was only on for 1.5 episodes, if that, was classic Loki.
Oh yeah, he was.
Oh man, I did. I really enjoyed that scene where he's causing the illusionary city to raise up.
Yeah,
I did. I enjoyed that.
So it's interesting. He did that in so many Easter eggs, right? But the pose he was in was the same pose that they had Loki in the cover of the Journey into Mystery, where he made his first appearance. That's the Loki pose, and right. So that was what he, the classic Loki. He was in the costume and doing the classic Loki pose. I thought that was.
Oh man, it's those little things that I really enjoy about the MCU. I mean, the explosions and the special effects. That's one thing or whatever, but mm-hmm. it's those little details that I really enjoy. I mean, just the fact that they included him in these Lokis. I mean, you had the kid Loki, you had the alligator Loki, and whatnot, but
I could watch a whole series about alligator Loki personally. I mean, I want to know more about that universe where he came from.
Yeah, but the classic Loki, that sealed it for me, man. Because you know what? I mean, even though, just like the multiverse or whatever. I mean, and we're concentrating like, oh yeah, I killed Thor, or you did this or you did that. Like, to me, the fact that he could have just left. They already said what they were going to do. He could have just left, but he stayed behind to cause a distraction and ultimately sacrificed himself.
Mhm.
So, with that, it almost, to me, highlighted like people aren't just good or evil.
Oh yeah,
They
exactly.
there's shades of gray, and right, you can do bad things but be a good person. You can be a good person and do some bad things.
Which is
And so
it's why Loki was the god of mischief, right? In
yeah,
Norse mythology, he wasn't really. I mean, um, I don't know that he was a god of evil, right? He was a god of
right,
mischief because
right,
he did have some redeeming qualities. He was a father, and it's also one of those things that in the mythology, people got upset at the show about the gender bending, aspect of the
mhm,
variants, but in Norse mythology, Loki was gender fluid. I mean, he went from being a father to some mythological figures to, I want to say, like he was a father to Fenris, the
uh-huh,
wolf, but then he actually gave birth to Sleipnir,
mhm,
Odin's horse. He actually turned
right,
into a woman and gave birth to it. So, I mean, it's one of those things that is true to the mythology, too, of Loki.
right,
Um, I personally, so I really enjoyed the aspect that the show was all about Loki, and really, in my mind, the everybody talked about the romantic interest between the two characters, and there shouldn't have been a romantic tension. It was Loki. It was all about Loki learning to love himself.
right,
Right. It was all
right,
about Loki, both Lokis realizing that they're not what they were always told they were, and that there were redeeming qualities in themselves. They saw in each other, Sylvie and Loki saw in each other the fact that there was redeeming qualities about themselves. And that's, to my mind, that's what I saw in it, is that it wasn't, so people said like, well, what about the romance, between them? And it was a betrayal at the end, right? When Sylvie kicks him through the portal. No, it wasn't. Sylvie kissed him because she realized there was something about herself that she loved, but she wanted her revenge. It was a choice that she made, right? But she
right,
kicked him through the portal to protect him. She
right,
didn't kill him. She kicked him out and saved him in a way.
yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen to that whatever castle at the end of time or
Right.
whatever. Um,
She didn't know if it was going to get destroyed. It probably, we'll probably find out in season 2, but I think she suspected nothing good was going to happen when she went through with it.
right.
Okay, now that's the other thing that I want to talk about, though. As great as all that was, Jonathan Majors absolutely stole the entire episode. I mean, his
Yeah.
character was, he was the most affable version of Kang we'll probably ever see.
right, right.
He was supposed to, they say that he was supposed to be an amalgam of He Who Was Left Behind in the comics and Immortus, who was
Mhm.
a version of Kang who was actually more of a good guy. He was
I mean, at the end of the day, he's human. And
right.
so you don't know, like, humans, we are social creatures. And it's one of those reasons why they consider solitary confinement cruel and unusual punishment. So you don't know how long he's been here in this castle at the end of time by himself for the most part. And
Oh,
so, like, as smart as he is,
yeah.
as powerful as he is, I like to see that little bit of craziness in his performance, and how tickled he was just to interact with these people who might kill him.
Yeah. Yeah. He was excited about the prospect just because it was something
Right.
happening.
Yeah, exactly. Something, and especially when it got to the point where he didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, that, which I thought was really interesting, that I mean, to me personally, I was geeking out over all of the Joseph Campbell references when he actually says, he talks about the hero's journey, and he says, no, no, no,
Mhm.
you guys have to be changed by the journey, and you have to, that's the hero's journey he's
Right.
referencing. And then even when
Yeah.
he says we've crossed the threshold,
Yeah.
that's another reference to the hero's journey, the
Yeah.
threshold that the hero goes
Matter of
through.
fact, do I have that book? Hold on. I think I have that book. I can't find it. Yeah, I do have a book about the hero's journey that
Yeah,
I have been reading. So yeah, I mean it is.
it was really interesting that they.
It is. It is. I mean, and right. They were changed. I mean, you could tell that they were changed. Loki throughout this entire, series, you can see the change within him. You can see this change in Sylvie. She didn't care about him in the beginning. I mean, when he first met her, like, right, her whole purpose, I'm gonna destroy the TVA.
I just
Oh
had a
well,
thought. What
huh?
if? So at the end of the thing, right? Like she was motivated during the beginning for revenge, right? And then they
Right.
got to the end, and he explained the gambit to them, right?
Yep.
The Tom Hiddleston Loki was like, "Hey, let's stop and think about this because if we kill him, it might have worse consequences." But I just had the thought that the whole sacred timeline was about Kang enforcing a who Loki could be. He was putting limits on Loki in terms of who he could be.
But
They
that wasn't.
said at
But
one
that. But
point,
that, again, that wasn't Kane.
well, no,
That
but
was
it
not
was Jonathan Major's character. He never actually gave
right.
a name, but the idea
Right.
is that he and his variants,
Right.
collectively, um,
Right.
he was doing this to protect the universe from himself, from his variants, right? But at
Exactly.
the same time, he was putting Loki in a cage and saying, you have to play this role of. And at one point earlier in the series, someone actually said it to Loki, like, your only job is to cause chaos and death and make other people the best version of themselves. And so that was like he was put in a box. So at the end,
Right.
when Sylvie kills him and destroys all that, she is freeing Loki, herself, and all of her variants from that box, that they can now
Uh-huh.
be whatever they want to be
Right.
without being constrained by the TVA. Every
Well,
version of
right. But
Loki
I
that
mean,
tried to better themselves got pruned.
right. But think about it like this way too. Just how he who remains was a certain way,
Mhm.
and you can say he may not have been totally benevolent. He may not have been
Right.
malevolent either.
Right.
So what you had, but now another iteration or variant, as they called him in the show, right? I can be despicable. I can be the worst of the worst.
Right.
And same thing with Loki. Now you might have a Loki variant who, oh, what you say about my mama?
Right.
Like, snap you out of existence.
Right. Well, it's obviously this opens up the Marvel universe for everything going forward. The What If series is based on the multiverse. Obviously
Yep.
the Multiverse of Madness. Spider-Man
Yep.
is supposed to touch on it. WandaVision, or the Wanda's situation at the end of WandaVision.
Well, explain that about how the timeline was and where
Okay,
Loki
yes.
took place in game,
So
etc.
yeah. So chronologically speaking, in the timeline, the Loki series happened after the Avengers in 2012, right? He was plucked from the
Right.
timeline in 2012, and that's when he was taken to the TVA. So in the sacred timeline, he happened back then.
Right.
Later, when WandaVision happened, chronologically, he probably already broke the timeline. So the multiverse existed already when Wanda did that,
Right.
which means that probably really was Quicksilver from the Sony universe, from another universe. It was a variant of Quicksilver
Right.
that they had just magically pulled from the multiverse. Or the other thing is they never explained who was actually in witness protection. And here's my
Right.
thing. Okay. Ralph Boner, right? In
Uh,
the series, in the scene when she says that name, right? Okay. So if your name was really Ralph Boner,
right.
you would probably not be amused at hearing it. Like you'd probably get sick of it by the time you were out of your childhood, right?
Right. Right.
But when she picked up the phone and said Ralph Boner, and he giggles and goes, Boner.
Right.
Like someone that's a joke to him because it's
Right.
you. So like my theory is he's the guy that was in witness protection, and it's because he was from a multiverse. He was a
Right.
variant of Quicksilver.
Well, listen, and I've said this before. I'm all for it, man. I know that Marvel has built up to this point for a long time now, but I'm ready to see the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to see, all these different characters that we weren't able to because they weren't all under one umbrella.
Well,
So
it's what I find interesting is it allows them to give credit and credence to a lot of the shows that came way before the MCU. So like there was talk of having Wesley Snipes appear somewhere as a variant of Blade,
uh-huh.
because he's out there, and that, if it
Right.
wasn't for Blade, there probably wouldn't be an MCU.
Oh man, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that show, basically, that movie originally started the interest in doing superhero movies.
Oh, dude, it was excellent. I mean, that first Blade movie, and a lot of people don't look at it as a Marvel movie, but the
Right.
character is Marvel.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which it's it's probably in their plans. Nobody's talked about it yet, but I'm already looking forward to. They're doing a Mobius movie
Uh-huh.
about the character Mobius from
Yep.
Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man villain who's basically a vampire.
Yep.
And then they're doing another Blade reboot.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to the inevitable Mobius Blade crossover.
Oh man. Listen, it considering, and I don't know who directed that first Blade movie with Wesley Snipes, but if they can capture the magic of that movie in the MCU, I mean,
Yeah.
right. And yeah, I would love to see like, a Blade Mobius Spider-Man movie.
Right.
I
I would totally watch that.
Yes, that would be awesome, man. That would be awesome. So yeah, I'm all for it, man. But one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, and I don't know, like we haven't heard anything about this, but the shows that were on Netflix, those can be explained as more multiverse variants as well. But listen, I think Kristen Ritter did a good job as Jessica Jones. I think Michael Coulter. That's the one issue that I had with them canceling those series is that Michael Coulter, I think, did an excellent job as Luke Cage, and he's doing another show now. I don't think that he's going to be able to do any MCU.
I heard a rumor, and I don't know how true this is, that supposedly Chris, what is his name? Cox?
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Cox, thank you.
Yeah.
Charlie Cox, who played Daredevil, is supposed to make an appearance in an upcoming Marvel movie as Daredevil.
Listen,
that would make all of those. Well, I mean, it's also interesting. So somebody else pointed this out on TikTok, and I thought this was really interesting. Is that the existence of the multiverse is really interesting because it means that for all those people who cosplay, I'm not sure if you don't know who cosplaying is. It's a thing that some people do where they like to dress up as their heroes or their favorite characters, right? And they'll go to conventions or whatnot. But it's a thing, and they make a costume that's very detailed, and it's supposed to be of their favorite characters.
Yep.
But a lot of people used to complain, like, oh, if you're not like the person who played it in the movie, whatever, you're not a legitimate cosplay, whatnot. The existence of the multiverse means that there's no such thing as an inaccurate cosplay. You're just a variant.
Right.
If you want to be a female Captain America or whatever, it's just a variant. And there's every cosplay is a valid cosplay. It's just, I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, listen, hey.
Even if you want to put a Loki hat on your crocodile, that's valid.
But Marvel has done an excellent job of tying in their universe and their properties together. Their storytelling, I think, is excellent. I want to see more of this in the series, man. And we talked about this, where they can introduce characters that have nothing to do with the movie franchises. But I'm excited for it, man. I want to see a point where with Disney Plus that, I'm not canceling between, when something comes out, etc. I'll keep a year round because, hey, this show is coming out. That show is coming out.
Yeah. I think they're setting it up to do just that. That they're adding all these characters to give themselves a roster to pull from to be able to continually put out shows. I mean, it might not be the same show continuously, but it's different shows in the same universe, which I think is kind of cool.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, Hawkeye is supposed to come out later on this year. What's the other show that's supposed to come out? Yeah, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a lot, man.
It's going to be interesting because they all weave in and out of the movies, right? You
Yep.
know, the
Yeah.
characters from the movies have now come in and done TV shows, and now we're going to see characters introduced in the TV shows, you know, expanded upon in other TV shows, and then weave into the movies.
Well,
You know,
we'll see. I mean, you know,
I believe that
I
they're setting up a Young Avengers and a Dark
man,
Avengers.
come on with it, boy. Come on
Yeah.
with it.
I don't know. I can't wait to see Eli and, you know,
Yes, sir.
all of
Yeah,
those.
exactly, man. I can't wait, bro. Man, you just made me happy.
So I tell you what, after all that, I really cannot wait to see Jonathan Majors. And I don't know if they're going to do this, but I really hope so. Is that I would love to see now, because they're not going to do Stan Lee anymore, right?
Uh-huh.
Do variations of Jonathan Majors in all these different shows. A Kang variant, and he's always like wildly different. I think that would be awesome. You know, I think Jonathan Majors could totally pull that off. He's got
dude, he did, man. Listen, I'm telling you, if you haven't watched it, watch it. He did an excellent job from the get-go. I mean, when he, you know, the elevator doors open and he's sitting there, and you know.
Which somebody else pointed this out too, right? Remember there was a scene earlier in the series where they showed a picture. It was a stained glass window of a devil sitting in a chair, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it's Mephisto," whatnot. The interesting thing is the pose that Jonathan Major is in when he's sitting in the chair when the door opens is the same pose that the devil was in.
Right.
Picture.
Dude, oh, okay, and this last thing too. At the end of that series, when Loki is like, you know, he's all flustered and like, hey, you know, everything's going crazy, and he looks and he sees the statue, and the statue is of Jonathan, you know, or whatever. Maybe, I'm like, like, who is he in regards to the TVA? So, you know, I'm telling you, man, yeah, the series ended very well. I'm thumbs up on this one, man. I'm thumbs up. I mean, I didn't start out that way, but the way it ended, I'm happy.
I got to agree.
Yeah. So right. So what do you rate it?
What's that?
What do you rate the episode or the series? What do you rate?
I'm gonna rate the series 5 out of 5. Because it was entertaining. It was. I've actually gone back and watched episodes more than once. I think the attention to detail was great. The writing was great, and it set up such a great premise. I thought it was great.
You know what? I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. You know, it wowed me by the end. I mean, it did, it didn't start out that way. I like I said, I went into it. I was just like, you know, but I was sad that it was only 6 episodes, but they did a lot in those 6 episodes.
I was happy there's going to be a second season.
Exactly. Me too.
All right, cool. So we agree. Wow. 5 out of 5.
Yes, sir.
That's one yet. We really liked WandaVision and Falcon.
I really liked WandaVision. I mean, Vision is my favorite character, man. So I'm telling you, I that's some high praise giving Loki, you know, a higher rating than you know.
Yeah. Which should be interesting to see if they do like variants of Vision. They could do that too.
Oh, well, we already got the white Vision that has his memory.
Oh, but I'm talking about like the Vision family.
Oh, well, listen. Don't get me started, man. Don't get me started. I don't like the way that series ended or whatever. Bring back my man Vision in all his green and yellow glory.
All right. This is
all right, sir.
Intellicide.
Signing off.
Wishing you well and signing off.
Yes, sir.